Ethiopia Tigray conflict and famine explained. The Tigray conflict and famine is a severe food scarcity that has resulted in the death and suffering in Ethiopia's Tigray region as a result of the Tigray War, which began in November 2020. As of May 2021, about 5.5 million people were experiencing extreme food insecurity, with over 350,000 of them enduring devastating famine conditions, and it is said to be the world's deadliest famine since the 2011 famine in Somalia. The Ethiopian government forces has been in battle with the Tigrayan fighters for control of the country's northern Tigray region. The Tigray People's Liberation Front, also known as the TPLF, sees the Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed as a fierce opponent, due to the fact that they dominated national politics and controlled ministerial government and military appointments for 25 years until he became Ethiopia's leader in 2018. When Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed came into power, he started what he called a law and order operation against domestic terrorists, although it involved massive deployment of the Ethiopian National Defense Forces and aircraft bombardments that were far from typical of domestic law enforcement. By November 28, federal forces had gained control of the region's capital and declared victory, although the security situation in Tigray remained unstable. Hello viewers, and welcome to another informative video on the channel, where we shall be taking a look at the causes and effects of the Tigray War in Ethiopia. But before we right into it, take a moment and subscribe to our channel if you haven't done so. Give us a like, and if you like such content, definitely take your time to drop your thoughts in the comment section below. Without any further ado, let's take a look at some of the causes of the Tigray War. How it started. In November 2020, Tigrayan troops were blamed for destroying the Ethiopian Northern Command military camp, while the Ethiopian army, on the other hand, Amhara militia and Eritrean forces gathered near their regional borders. Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed retaliated with a harsh scorched earth campaign on Tigray. After more than 8 months of battle, the rebel Tigrayan Defense Forces drove the Ethiopian National Defense Force and its allies out of most of Tigray. When the then government proclaimed a unilateral ceasefire, the Tigrayan Defense Force still proceeded to attack neighboring Afar and Amharan states. In October 2021, the Ethiopian government recruited tens of thousands of inadequately trained recruits and pushed them north. Tigrayan Defense Forces repelled those advances and has since made substantial military victories, including the seizure of the crucial Amhara cities of Dezi and Kombolcha. The TDF's advances prompted the government to declare a state of emergency, and there were allegations of desertions among the Ethiopian National Defense Force. The situation has deteriorated to the point where the United States Special Envoy for the Horn of Africa, Jeffrey Feldman, has urged the Tigrayan rebels not to attack or seize the city. Its devastating effects on civilians. The war's impacts have been disastrous for civilian populations. Millions of Tigrayans have already been displaced, slowly making their way to places like the Shire, Axum, and Agdikat in search of help, and some going to the extent of eating leaves just to survive. Tens of thousands of Eritrean refugees have gone missing, and refugee camps in the region have been demolished. Civilian infrastructure such as water systems, clinics, and hospitals have been robbed or damaged. Normally, during such crises, relief agencies always rush in to give a helping hand, but food and other types of help were robbed while aid groups tried to provide aid through intentionally overcomplicated regulatory, logistical, and security barriers. But despite all the efforts, there have been 23 deaths of humanitarian workers. The government's harsh decisions. After the Ethiopian army was driven out of Tigray in June, Abiy Ahmed established a physical and administrative blockade of northern Ethiopia, cutting off communications, banking, fuel, and trade into Tigray, causing relief efforts to virtually come to a standstill. Since June 28, the Ethiopian government has left fewer than 10% of the food, medicines, and other crucial commodities required to assist the people in need to enter Tigray. It has also been made clearly known that if the United Nations or other aid organizations voice out, their programs will be stopped and their leadership will be removed. Inevitable famine. Early in 2021, reports of starvation-related deaths began to appear. On January 25th, the Tigray Transitional Government stated that 10 individuals in Ugolamada and 3 persons in Ada had died of starvation. Less than a month later, the head of the Ethiopian Red Cross Society described arriving displaced persons in Tigrayan towns as very malnourished and their skin is literally on their bones. The World Food Programme announced in early August that malnutrition rates for children under the age of 5 had reached over 30%, and 80% of breastfeeding women had acute malnutrition. These statistics show that not only has famine occurred, but the starvation will escalate most rapidly in the absence of timely and persistent assistance. Due to a lack of medicine, the few clinics that remain in Tigray are largely unable to assist, and water trucking, which is crucial for impacting towns, was forced to stop due to a lack of finance and gasoline. The civilian population of northern Ethiopia appeared to be on a long, painful path to a fully preventable starvation on a level not seen since the country's greatest famine in its history in 1983 to 1985. It is said that if the violence continues to rage and aid is withheld, particularly in Amhara, which has a population of almost 30 million people, the humanitarian implications would be much beyond what any relief organization can handle. Its implications to the Horn of Africa. Ethiopia has long been a source of stability in the Horn of Africa, assisting the stabilization of Somalia and South Sudan and providing critical diplomatic assistance throughout Sudan's transition. Already, a border conflict between Ethiopia and Sudan has resurfaced and threatens to ignite, while Sudan remains a thorn between military and civilian factions of its transitional administration. Meanwhile, Somalia is engaged in a constitutional crisis that threatens to undermine hard-won accomplishments. Ethiopia's stability, as well as the region's ability to uphold international law with extreme prejudice, will have an impact on the future of both of these nations. Peace attempts. Several suggestions for peace talks and mediation were made, involving some of the main groups involved in the war. Around 9 November 2020, the President urged that the African Union stop the fighting and begin peace talks, but Abiy refused to negotiate. The United Nations Security Council and top leaders have called for a ceasefire and access for humanitarian workers to the impacted areas. The United States has requested that the TPLF withdraw its forces from the Afar and Amhara areas, while also penalizing particularly the Ethiopian and Eritrean leaders. The European Union has suspended financial assistance to Ethiopia, as France has also withdrawn its military assistance from Ethiopia. We are glad you made it to the end of the video, but before leaving, what are your thoughts on Ethiopia's recent crisis, and what can be done to help this struggling nation? You can drop your comments below, ensure you subscribed and turn on notifications so as to be notified on our future uploads. Thanks for watching.